To order. As my last act as chairman for this year, I would like to welcome Mr. John Buslow and Mr. Ed DeVault and congratulate them on their election. This past Monday, a week ago Monday, and welcome them to the board, and also express my appreciation and admiration to all those who ran for office, and congratulate all those who were victorious. That being said, first item on the agenda is the reorganization of the board. Are there any nominations for chairman?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I nominate William Connolly.
Mr. Kerrigan nominates William Connolly. Are there any other nominations? There being none, all in favor of William Connolly as chair, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, and opposed, and so it's unanimous. Congratulations, Mr. Connolly.
Thank you for a great year, Mr. Chairman.
We'll change seats here. There we go. That was simple.
High-rent district over here.
Oh my gosh. This chair is way down low. Now he's too low.
Change chairs, too. We can move the chairs, too. Okay. I want to express my appreciation to my fellow board members for the vote of confidence. I hope I can live up to the record of the previous chairman in managing our meetings. Next order of business is still reorganization of the board. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Sean Kerrigan as vice chair.
Are there any other nominations? There being none, all those in favor of Sean Kerrigan as vice chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you want to change seats?
No, let's do that.
Okay. Next order of business is nominations for clerk. Are there any nominations?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I nominate Ed DeVault.
Are there any other nominations? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Next order of business is public comment. Is there any public comment tonight? Please state your name and your address.
My name is Jeff Swan, 132 Franklin Street. I have copies for everybody, but I'll read it and then I'll hand them out unless you guys want it in advance.
If you have something you want to present, feel free to share it with the board.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, Jeff Swan, 132 Franklin Street. Dear board members, thank you for allowing me the time to speak. First, welcome to the new select people and congratulations. As a citizen of the town, I look forward to your input in guiding the town of Clinton to becoming a greater entity. Second, at the last town meeting, the warrant was provided to all those who in attendance, outlining the various budgets, costs, and various financial information required for the citizenry. In reviewing the document, I cannot find a reference to the Clinton Cable TV. Thinking that perhaps that given there was no specific warrant regarding CCTV being up for review, that information will be in the Town of Clinton Finance Committee budget for fiscal year 2020, dates July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. It is possible I missed the entry. However, despite repeated reviews, I could not find it as a department. CCTV was also not listed in the budget summary, nor was CCTV listed in the sources of funding. I'm unclear, given the lack of its presence in the Town of Clinton Finance Committee budget, where this information is recorded for the public to review. Did I miss it in the budget document? And if so, can it be pointed out to me? Is there a reason this information is not available in the budget? Do we not receive income under the heading of CCTV? Is the public barred from the information by some legal issue, mandate, or requirement? The proper planning of any enterprise or operation requires a clear financial understanding to properly plan what is to be done and what can be done and what should be done. CCTV is no different. Unless there is a legal reason to prevent this, I would ask that this information be produced as quickly as possible and presented both to the Clinton Cable TV Committee as well as included in the town financial budget. As this is I ask this both as a member of the committee and a citizen of the town. Sincerely, Jeff Swan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Swan. Is there any other public comment? There being none, the next item on the agenda is review of minutes. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Next item on the agenda is a liquor license transfer request and a change of location to 310 High Street. We received an application from Deborah Sargent, DBA Clinton Sunshine Cafe, for the transfer of ownership of an all-alcohol restaurant license currently held by Wai Incorporated, DBA Fung Wong Restaurant, and to change the location of this license from 844 High Street to 310 High Street, Clinton. Is the proponent here? Come forward, state your name, address, and tell us what you're applying for.
Hi, I'm Deborah Sargent, 307 Central Street, Hudson, Mass. And I wanted to move the Fung Wong's license to the Sunshine Cafe.
Are there any questions from the board?
I have no questions, but I just give you an opportunity to say what you intend to do, how you intend to change the operation of the restaurant. Could you tell us?
We just want to add mimosa brunch
Mimosa
on Saturdays
brunch?
and Sundays, yeah.
Uh-huh. That's it?
Thought that would be fun, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Before we go back to the, I guess the board will ask questions after the public hearing. Sure. This is the right way to proceed. This being a public hearing, is there anyone else here to testify in favor of the applicant? There being none, is there anyone here to testify against the application? There being none, this portion of the public hearing is closed, and now it's open to the board's discussion. Under discussion, I would appreciate if you follow up on what Mr. Jacoinski asked you about exactly what are your plans, how do you intend to use this license at that location?
For mimosa brunch on Saturdays and Sundays.
That's it,
Yeah, we're only open for breakfast and lunch.
okay? Are there any other questions by the board?
Mr. Chair, just for my education, people, and for people maybe watching home, Mike, can you explain how this works? The Fung Wong, now this license just reverts back to us, or how does this work?
No, the license is still under their control, and they're able to sell their business or, their enterprise to another entity of their choosing. So the board reviews the transfer to ensure that the entity that's going to be taking over the license is of good character, or someone that you feel comfortable operating a liquor establishment in town, and then it goes to the Alcoholic Beverages Control for further review and background checks and review of their new location to ensure that they have proper controls for the serving of the alcohol and all those type of issues. So the board is generally, the local board is here generally to see that this is appropriate within the town of Clinton, and then the state will go through the details of adhering to all the state laws. So, but the current holder of the license has that ability to get value for their business, which they have done through this transaction.
Thank you.
But, if I just may say, because the Fung Wong sold the license, we are under no requirement to approve that transfer. And not just saying about the Fung Wong, but this business of selling licenses, which is technically illegal. I just wanted to say, just because somebody sells a license, we are under no obligation to approve that transfer.
Correct.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
Does the time when alcohol can be sold interfere with your brunch plans? Because I know, like, if on Sunday.
Yeah, we're open till 2:30.
Okay, so you would start, I don't even recall what the time is in town. Is it like 11 or 10 o'clock on Sundays? Okay, that doesn't interfere with your plans at all?
Saturdays
Okay. Okay.
Nope.
This may seem like a silly question, and I have drank mimosas, but I can't, what's in a mimosa?
Champagne
And
and
I have a
orange juice.
question, I have a reason for that question.
It's champagne and orange juice.
Champagne and orange juice. I will tell you, I have some concern about a full liquor license being used for a Sunday morning mimosa brunch. I mean, it is a full liquor license is an asset to the town. If someone wanted to open a restaurant or a cafe and use the full pouring capacity of that license, we would be without it. And I don't know if we have any beer and wine licenses, which is all you really need. Do we have any?
I don't believe we don't have any left. We don't
Now,
have
what
any.
about these two that are coming up later?
Those are package licenses.
Those are, all right, those are package store licenses. Okay, beer, those are beer and wine package store. Okay, all right. I'm done.
Anybody else have any more questions or discussion? What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, as I said, I was opposed to it. I would make a motion to deny the transfer, and it's just not in the best interest of the town.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I think Mr. Chakonsky has a fair point. I mean, I know we've talked about adding more licenses in town. If we're putting money in the high street and we expect it to hit, we should be prepared to welcome businesses with open arms, and I'm not sure we're equipped to do that right now. So in the meantime, maybe we need to take better care of the inventory we do have. I'm not opposed to what she's planning over there, but if this is the only one we have left, then I am a little apprehensive about giving a full liquor license to something that just
But
needs
it isn't actually a license that you have left. It's in Fung Wong's position.
Sure.
It's not in the town's.
Under discussion,
Okay.
I would just, I almost called you Mr. Chair. Under discussion, I'd like to say that if we deny this motion, the license is still not available unless some other applicant successfully reaches an agreement to purchase Fung Wong's business assets. And then we would be faced with a decision. There's nothing that prohibits this applicant from developing a larger use of that license going forward once she gets established. This applicant has made an effort to improve that business, going business, and I don't think, if we want to get an inventory of licenses, we have the avenue available to us to do just what we're going to do later on for people at town meeting.
Okay.
We can apply for the legislature to give us a license, and we can hold that in our inventory until we believe that there's a qualified applicant for that
That's fair.
license. So I'm urging this board to vote against the motion and then to grant the applicant's request for a transfer. Is there any other discussion?
What, just as me being new here, what is the process if we want to pursue getting another license?
We would put an article on the warrant, just like the ones that we're going to be addressing later on.
Gotcha.
And name the town, just to increase the inventory for the town. It would be then, town meeting would, if a town meeting approved it, we would then need to approve the request to go to Boston. If Boston agreed to it, we would have a license in our inventory.
Right, thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we should grant the
We have a
license.
motion on the table, Mr. Busno.
Sorry.
Is there any other discussion on the motion to deny the application? There being none, all those in favor of the motion to deny the applicant indicate by saying aye. All those opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Aye.
So the motion is defeated. Is there any other motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant the license to transfer.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
Well, I would hope that we would, at next town meeting, request an additional full liquor license, because I mean, if
Yeah.
that's the
That's
sole
what
use
we-
that this one's being put to. And I mean, I do think, Bill, that after a certain amount of time, we can get a liquor license back
Yes, you're correct.
from a business. But, I mean, I don't wish this lady any ill will, but, and I'm going to vote to approve it and vote it against my own motion, but I am concerned about the use that it's being put to.
I agree with that, Mike, and I think we should move forward with the next town meeting, getting a couple of licenses available in our inventory and withhold them until something beneficial to the community
Right.
comes in for it. Okay, is there any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor of approving the transfer of the liquor license indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye, unanimous.
Phew.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck, yes. The next item on our agenda is a utility pole installation public hearing on Chase Street. Is someone from National Grid here?
Here,
Hi, could you state your name and your address?
Laura Napolitano. Do I have to say my personal address?
The business that you're,
939 Southbridge Street, Worcester.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain to the board what your application is?
Of course. So we have on the corner of Chase Street and Webster Street, what's called a tree guy, where a supporting wire is going from a pole to a tree, and the tree apparently needs to come down. So we need to substitute that support by installing a stub pole across the street from it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? There being none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the application? Sir, please come forward, state your name and your address.
Brian Callahan, 184 Chase Street. It's, my opposition to it is it's right next to my driveway. I have the hydrant on one side, and now I'm gonna have a pole according to where they marked it. To the stake is 29 inches away from the edge of my driveway. My driveway is only 12 feet wide. It's a 3-bedroom house. I wanted to widen the driveway. If that's the case, I'm not gonna be able to widen the driveway. The tree is 7 foot 8 inches away from the stake. And it's 10 foot 1 to the center of the tree from the edge of my driveway. I don't know where the 10-foot center line is that they talk about on in the newspaper ad. I couldn't find it because from center line to the stake is 16 feet in the middle of Chase Street, and it's 18 feet from Webster Street to the existing pole. So I'm not sure where it comes from.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Here, can you show me on here where, actually, let's go to the bigger one. So where is the tree? So here's your driveway.
Correct.
Right? So where is the tree? Could you kind of show me where the tree is?
The tree would be, it's over here.
Okay, so it's where we need
It's
to put
over
the
here.
pole.
Correct, that's where it's the guide wire is going
Yeah.
to the tree. It's 10,
All right.
it's, let's see, it's off of my driveway.
Yeah.
It's 10 foot 1 to the center of the tree to the driveway. So this,
Okay.
this being the tree
Mhm.
and this being my driveway, it's 10 foot 1.
Okay, let me just,
And now it's going to be 29 inches to the stake away from my driveway.
okay, so current, is it all right if I take notes, y'all?
Please.
Please.
Current, and then proposed. So you say it's 29 inches?
To the stake from
Okay,
the
yeah.
edge of my
Yep, yep,
driveway.
yep.
That's where the stake is positioned.
Okay. Well,
And that's been there. I just recently purchased this property.
so who's taking the tree down? Are you taking the
I
tree down, or
am-
is the
no,
town
it's
taking
town-
the
it's
tree
town
down?
property.
Oh, the town's,
It's
okay.
town property.
Do y'all know anything about the tree coming down?
You know anything about
I don't know anything. I mean,
Okay, okay.
Has a public hearing on the removal of the tree been held?
I'm not sure. That would be through the tree warden, through
Yeah.
the superintendent of public works.
Public
I can
Works.
check on that.
Okay.
Because I would like to say that realistically, we'd be putting the pole where the tree is, but we still need the support in the meantime. But we don't want to just put a stub pole for a temporary. So what I can do is, I suppose I could talk to the tree warden and see how long it would take for y'all to get that pole down, the tree down, and then we can, because if it's right where the tree is now, then it's not gonna affect you, right?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
There is no guide wire at the next intersection either, going to the
Well,
same existing pole across.
Here's the issue. See, here's the primary line right here, here's your house right here, right, 184?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a three-phase tap going here, so we
Okay,
have.
not to
pressure coming in.
discourage you
Oh,
from
sorry,
trying to work
sorry.
out a solution.
Okay,
Sorry, I can do that outside.
I'd suggest
I
that
can do that
the board
outside.
make a motion to table
Yeah.
your request, and you can come back and present it at another time.
Can I find out who the tree warden is? I don't know who
The
that is.
superintendent of public works is the tree
Okay.
warden.
Is there a
Chris-
motion?
Chris-
to
Mr.
table?
Chair, I move we table this.
I second.
There's a motion and a second to table this request for a pole relocation. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you so
Motion
much.
prevails. Next item on our agenda is a meeting with Discover Clinton relating to a request to close High Street for a sidewalk sales day.
My name is Lauren Crossman of 27 Dyke Drive in Clinton.
William Spencer of 65 Park Street of Clinton.
Thank you.
I come before you today as the president of Discover Clinton to ask you for support in closing the street from Church Street to Union Street in order to accommodate safety of pedestrians attending our event that we have planned for August 10th, 2019. This event is planned to be bigger sidewalk sales than it has been within the past decade. We want to try to revamp sidewalk sales to be big, like longtime Clinton residents remember it, by inviting every business that's in town, not just the merchants on High Street as it is now. We've gotten a lot of interest of this, and we feel that the street closure would be a necessity in order to accommodate safety. We've been working with the police and fire chief regarding leaving safe pathways in the middle of the street, as well as they've graciously volunteered to detail the event. We plan on distributing maps for vendors attending regarding public parking, as well as assigning parking just to vendors to keep away from other public attendees of the event.
Are there any questions from the board?
The hours of operation, I see it here, 12 to 4?
So the event's the event is publicly announced as 12 to 4.
Okay.
But we plan on closing the street at 9 a.m.
Okay.
In order to get some of the traffic or the cars that are parked on the street off. We thought of the idea of addressing all the landlords so they know ahead of time to stick flyers in their tenants' mailboxes, flyers on the cars a week ahead of the event, day before the event, telling them the time the street will be closed, and then the day of the event, hopefully people get the message. But if not, 9 a.m. I think is a safe leeway to get them out.
Okay.
Are there any other questions by the board? There being none, what's the pleasure of this committee?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we grant the Discover Clinton's request to close High Street from 9 a.m. to after 4 p.m. on August 10th, 2019, from
Second.
Union to Church.
Second.
Moved and seconded, is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Congratulations, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for putting this event on. I'm looking forward to it.
Great.
Next item on our agenda is a discussion relative to the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, and this is a public hearing. Mr. Duffy?
Mr. Chairman, this is actually more of an informational session. I hope you welcome public comment but it has to do with,
Excuse me, Mr. Duffy, this is listed on our agenda
As a public hearing?
as a public hearing.
Yeah,
Is it?
we had it as a hearing to get the public comment, so
Okay.
it's a tense of the chair will open up for anyone that would like to make comment.
great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm here to just, introduce our consultants, Mary Ellen Radovanik and Jeff Malloy from BSC Group. They are here to make a presentation of the summary of findings concerning the town's MVP planning process. You may recall that in May of 2018, the town received a grant from the Commonwealth to do an assessment of the town's particular vulnerabilities to climate-driven weather events, things such as flooding, drought, heat waves, windstorms, those kinds of things. A core team was assembled with representatives from the different town boards, as well as stakeholders in the community, as well as DCR, other individuals who might provide beneficial insight. This process included 3 public meetings, and we have prepared a summary of findings that will be submitted to the state. We will seek designation as an MVP community. This designation will allow us to apply for assistance as we strive to implement the recommendations of the plan. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mary Ellen and Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this the best place for us to present to you today, or should we stand?
Wherever you're comfortable,
Okay, I'll stand if that's all right.
except the microphone's there.
Yeah, okay, then I'll sit. But I'll turn the laptop here. So Phil basically covered the first 5 or
Could
6.
you
Jeff
just
Malloy, sorry. Jeff Malloy, BSC Group, 803 Summer Street, Boston, Massachusetts. So Phil covered a bunch of my first maybe 5 or 6 slides, so I can go through those quickly and we don't have to spend a whole lot of time this evening going through that, because the intent is to get some feedback from the community if they feel we've missed anything or they'd like to add anything to the findings report, which is the outcome of the year-long process that we've been involved with. So I'll go through this relatively quickly and hopefully we can just get to opening up for conversation. So again, thank you for hosting us tonight, and it's been a real pleasure working with your community for the last year. Before the process and meeting Phil for the first time, I really didn't know much about your community, and it's a great community. It's been really fun to learn about your community working with you over the last year. So this was the invitation to tonight's meeting, so we don't have to spend any time here. Your community received $20,000 from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. This process, the goals of this process are to earn community designation, MVP designation, which gives you eligibility for future grant funding through not only the MVP program, which is expanding within the state rapidly, but also it's a checkbox on many other grant programs throughout the state. So this is really going to open up opportunity for your community to get publicly funded dollars. Again, outcomes, it's designation, it's a funding mechanism, gives you eligibility and competitiveness towards other grants. Public education and awareness, this is really important. We had multiple core team meetings, workshops throughout this, almost year-long process now, where we learned a lot about the community, identified vulnerabilities and strengths and assets, and so it's been a really, really good planning process. And climate resilience, this is key. This is just a standard slide that I show in basically every climate change related presentation that I give. This shows the last 800,000 years of atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration. It has never been above 300 parts per million over the last 800,000 years. And we are currently, this slide shows 410 parts per million as of January 9, 2019. At the beginning of last month, we surpassed 415 parts per million in the atmosphere. So we haven't seen atmospheric concentrations of carbon dioxide like this that depicts these numbers in the last 3 million years. So just an important piece of information to have as we think about how we're going to be planning for these effects. But the key takeaway for the community is this slide right here. This is what we centered all of our discussions around. Climate change is gradually changing the distribution of risk for your community. And if there's questions at any time, please speak up. we are thinking about risk in new ways because of the effects from climate change that we are observing, right? And then the second bullet point, climate change challenge the way that community resources are managed. So this is simply is how are we going to pay for these effects? So risk is changing. How do we pay for these changes? Okay, and we can talk more about this if you'd like, but these are the two key facts to think about as we plan for the effects of climate change. This is the state of Massachusetts, obviously, and we have municipalities that are color-coded by those that have participated in the program in the first 2 years of the program. The blue is the first year, dark blue is first year, light blue is second year. Your community is part of this second round of fiscal year funding. The regional partnerships are the hatched communities, typically adjacent, and that is something to think about as you start to move forward with implementing some of the actions that we've identified. Is regional partnerships are viewed favorably by the state, and they like to fund them. So it requires a little bit more work to work with adjacent communities, but pollution and floods and hazards cross boundaries, right? So what have we been up to? Core team risk assessment. This was a core team group of 6 to 8 municipal department leaders. We met, we talked, we looked at where our vulnerabilities are, we did some mapping, and we came up with strengths, vulnerabilities, assets within your community that are at risk. We did a community resilience building workshop where we invited a larger group of individuals, representatives of the community at large, to conduct the same exercise just to kind of broaden our understanding of the issues. The findings report which is in draft form right now, final draft form. It's the outcome of this process. It's what will be submitted to the state as soon as we finish this public listening session with you this evening. And then finally, you earn MVP designation. So when we worked with the core team, the first step was to identify the key hazards within your community. So what we came up with was flooding, extreme snow and ice events, extreme heat, high velocity wind. What you'll find with some of these issues is they overlap. So this was a challenging piece of the process. You can have an extreme snow and ice event that leads to flooding, right? So oftentimes the hazards overlap with one another. So it's about kind of parsing out that nuance as we try to identify action items. I'll describe what action items are in a moment. So we presented these at the community workshop to see if we needed to refine or expand upon these hazards at all, and we actually found that this worked for your community. So it was good early planning through the process. So this slide we can pass over unless there's anyone that at this point sees something that maybe we're missing here or wants to comment on these hazards that we've identified. Just a quick break in the presentation. And if not, I can just keep moving.
We can keep moving.
Okay, we'll keep moving. I'm not going to take long. But those watching on TV, we do have an email address with my colleague, Mary Ellen. Please feel free to send an email to Mary Ellen if you want to comment on this process. We'll show that email at the end. This was the matrix we worked after, just very simply. The red box where we identified priority hazards. The yellow box, this framework was provided to us by the state, so what they asked us to do was identify what they call features, infrastructural, societal, and environmental features. Okay, this gets listed here, and then the blue box is the body of the matrix. This is where you match an infrastructural feature, which can be a vulnerability or a strength, match it with a hazard, and then identify an action, okay? And then we populated this matrix. And we came up with, I haven't counted, but I would say hundreds of action items. And again, a lot of these overlap. So your community was really awesome at working through those challenges. It was fun to watch. So again, infrastructural, societal, environmental features. We took the hazards, we matched the features, we came up with the actions, and then what we ultimately did was with all of the actions that we came up with, we then categorized them. And these are our categories that we came up with, and then we ranked them in priority of what should we be addressing, okay? And remember, there's many overlaps with these. Counterpane book, is obviously an issue we're all familiar with, the flooding issues, but that also relates to water management, floodplain management. So while there's a ranking system here, there is also a order at which we can think about how to tackle these issues. So again, these are just some of the, let's call them sub-actions that came under Counterplan Book. Build upon past planning efforts. Do a drainage infrastructure assessment. Seek multiple funding sources. Nature-based solutions, green infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. Community engagement and education initiatives come up in every single set of actions. So you're gonna see overlapping actions as we move through these. Again, emergency preparedness and response, shelter-in-place programs, evacuation routes. We found circumstances where certain parts of your community get cut off in a flooding event. Okay, so is that what we need to think about? Is there access to, does every individual within the community have access to the hospital in a flooding event? We found that some individuals are cut off under those circumstances. You know, the fire station is in the 500-year floodplain. That's out of the 100-year floodplain today, but the 500-year floodplain is starting to look more like the 100-year floodplain. So again, food security was another big one. I'll move on, we can talk more about this obviously. Hazardous materials. Your historic industrial community, there's hazardous materials underground, there's hazardous materials above ground. In flooding events, the state has recognized this as a really important thing to be thinking about. Your community was right on it, and one of their primary actions was to work with the Office of Technical Assistance. This is a department out of the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, the funding institution for this program. They have created the Office of Technical Assistance to deal specifically with this issue. Again, your community was on this. Water and floodplain management, a lot of the same stuff. Roadway infrastructure, drainage infrastructure. Do you have critical buildings that are located within your floodplain? What kind of studies can be done? What kind of nature-based solutions or green infrastructure can be applied to address some of these issues? Again, overlapping issues. It's this term co-benefits, where when you find multiple issues and can use solutions that solve many of them, that's going to be viewed very favorably as you move forward with future grant applications with the state. National river management, same thing. This has more of an ecological basis. You guys are already doing a lot of really good work on the Nashua River. If you can prevent damming of the river from fallen trees, let's say, you're going to alleviate flooding in other places. Renewable energy, carbon mitigation. Your community was one of the few that I've dealt with. We worked with 7 communities over the last year that have made this a specific feature of your efforts. This really isn't a climate adaptation program, but the state is recognizing that they want to fund renewable energy type projects. So, you know, can you address public health issues by getting vehicles off the roadways, right? And let's say establishing electrification infrastructure within your community. So again, so those are our 6 ranked priorities, big priorities with focused sub actions beneath them. So thank you for your time today. We really appreciate you having us again. Phil was great to work with. The core team members were awesome. Yeah, that's it. Stay engaged. I want to open it up to the community in case they have any questions. To maintain your designation, when you submit this to the state, you will earn your designation. You have to continue to demonstrate to the state that you're going to build upon this findings report. It's not a one and done thing. So the way to do that is apply for grants through the program, right? So anyway, thank you again. There's the email if there's anyone on TV that wants to provide comment.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. This being in the nature of a public hearing, is there anyone that has anything to add for or against? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Is there action required by the board?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair, but just to let people know, the report, the draft report that we're working off of right now is posted on the town website. So if people want to go there, they could find it, read through it, And again, email BSC Group or Phil, any comments that can be passed on before that report is actually finalized.
Mary Ellen Radovanek, BSC Group. Also been a pleasure to work with Clinton. I just want to mention that the report is due to the state by the end of this month. So if we're going to accept comments, which we sincerely hope we receive, I would think the deadline would be next Tuesday.
Yeah, and I'll add that the report, the way the state wants the report written is it's an outcome of the workshop, not an outcome of this public listening session. So what we did to ensure that public comment gets into the report is it's become an attachment on the last page of the report. So we can just take comment 1 through X, add the comment, and it's done. So it's not a heavy lift to incorporate comments at this stage.
Thank you. Phil?
I'd just like to remark on the process that we undertook. It was very enlightening to get the senior director and the fire chief and the police chief and the health agent all in the same room to kind of understand what their perspective are on different hazardous situations, what their priorities would be, and then to lay that out to a map and understand, okay, who's to the hospital, who's to food, who's to the pharmacies, what happens in a flood event. It's not, you think that a fire station, again, is in the middle of a floodplain. As a Roosevelt Elementary School, we contemplate as a shelter in place. What are the ramifications of having those places in place? How do we mitigate against possible, what are we doing in that situation? It was very interesting to try to understand what our needs for backup power generation, potentially cooling stations, as the number of days, sustained days over 90 degrees seems to increase. What are the amenities that we have that we can provide to our citizens? And how do we begin to plan and anticipate the provision of those things? From that perspective, it's a very worthwhile process. Welcome anyone to download the report and read it. The meat and potatoes of the report are in the back in the matrix of recommendations. And we look forward to implementing these recommendations to benefit the community.
Okay, thank you for all your efforts on the town's behalf in this regard. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is Traffic Committee Report of Recommendations. Unless the board objects, I think we should move through each one individually. The first one is Corcoran House handicap parking spaces. The Corcoran House sent a letter requesting 2 handicap parking spaces on Church Street in front of their building for a van and family drop-off. Recommendation of the Traffic Committee is that the 2 handicap spaces on Church Street be approved with the condition to reduce 2 of the spaces reserved for Corcoran House on Walnut Street. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the Traffic Committee's recommendation that 2 handicap spaces on Church Street be approved with the condition to reduce 2 of the spaces reserved for Corcoran House on Walnut Street.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Under discussion, I'd like to add that those 2 spaces that get reduced should be the first 2 closest to the intersection, to make those 2 spaces available.
Sure.
Those closer to Town Hall for people doing business at Town Hall. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Next item is a 4-way stop intersection for Church Street and Chestnut Street. The Senior Center Director sent an email requesting that the intersection of Church Street and Chestnut Street be designated a 4-way stop for the safety of vehicular traffic and pedestrians crossing the street. It's the recommendation of the Traffic Committee that the intersection of Church Street and Chestnut Street be designated a 4-way stop. Upon learning of the Traffic Committee's decision, the Board of Selectmen received a letter from Phil and Allison Duffy of 260 Church Street in Clinton requesting that other traffic calming measures be considered before installing a 4-way stop at this intersection. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we, what would the motion be if I wanted to consider those lesser options.
I'd recommend that we table this item and request that the traffic committee review the recommendations.
Then I'll make that
from the
motion.
above.
I move we table this so that the traffic committee can take into consideration other options beyond the four-way stop.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those, is there any discussion, further discussion? All those in favor of tabling this item indicate by saying aye.
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 Unanimous. Next item is Worcester Street one-way complaint. The police department received a complaint that vehicles exiting the Parks and Recreation office are going against the one-way designation of Worcester Street. It's the recommendation of the traffic committee that the one-way designation for Worcester Street be moved to begin after the Parks and Recreation office and for the Department of Public Works to erect appropriate signage. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the traffic committee's recommendation that the one-way designation for Worcester Street be moved to begin after the Parks and Recreation office and for the Department of Public Works to erect appropriate signage.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Next item on the agenda is parking on Grove Street near Spillway. The Selectmen's office received a petition from residents of Grove Street indicating that individuals coming to view the spillway are parking at the end of Grove Street, blocking the driveways and narrowing the road for safe passage. It's the recommendation of the traffic committee that the town install no blocking driveway signs and have Clinton Police enforce illegal parking, especially around the fire hydrant. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of the traffic committee to install no blocking driveway signs and have Clinton Police enforce illegal parking, especially around the fire hydrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, just to, I was up there the other day, and yeah, it's, even in the middle of the day, it's quite an issue, so it'd be great to see something happen up there.
And I would just like to say that it's been I mean, people have been parking there for 50 years, if not longer. The request was to make resident parking only. The reality is, if you live near an attraction,
Right.
people tend to park there. The attraction was there before when people bought the houses. The traffic committee was not inclined to make it resident parking only or no parking, because if it was no parking, the residents would not be able to park there. So I think this is a good solution.
Agreed. Is there any other discussion?
If people want to visit there, though, I think, nothing to do with this, but in the future, I don't know if there's something that could be pursued to accommodate that parking in some other location, maybe over the fence, working with the department that manages the reservoir. Don't know the possibility of that, but I see people showing up to try to view something in town, and I understand you don't want it blocking people's driveways, but is there something that we could do in the future to accommodate the people that do want to come to see the reservoir, see the dam?
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the recommendation?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Next item on our agenda is bus stop sign on Bufton Farm Road. The Department of Public Works received a request that a bus stop ahead sign be erected on Bufton Farm Road to notify motorists of the bus stop located at the intersection of Bufton Farm Road and Chase Street. It's the recommendation of the Traffic Committee that the Department of Public Works install a bus stop sign ahead sign on Bufton Farm Road. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the recommendation of the traffic committee that the Department of Public Works install a bus stop sign ahead sign on Bluffton Farm Road.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. No parking on Green Street update. The Selectmen's office received a call from Brady Sullivan that residents of their complex were upset that parking is no longer allowed in front of their building. The traffic committee feels that the area is much safer with the restrictions. So I take that to mean the traffic committee is not recommending any action on this request.
It's a rather interesting situation. There's ample parking behind the building, but many residents were parking in front of the building, and particularly as you made the turn from Chestnut Street down onto Green Street, there's a whole bunch of cars parked there. So the traffic committee, and at the request of the local management of the apartment complex, we made it no parking. Those people who had been parking there called the headquarters of the main office of the corporation, who called to us about the parking. But the parking, the traffic committee recommends that we just tell them it's safer now and we're not changing our mind.
So unless the board wants to pursue this, we'll move on to the next item. Traffic lights at Main Street and Church Street. Jim Boudry informed the traffic committee that the pavement loops were not operating properly for the traffic lights at the intersection of Main Street and Church Street, and new sensor cameras were installed, which has made the light changes more reliable. Apparently, this doesn't require action from our board. Administrative business. The following is a list of items for the board's consideration and action. Late night closings. The following establishments are requesting late night closings for Saturdays in the month of July 2019. Clinton Turn Vereen, Crystal Cafe, Liberty Tavern, Ringside Cafe, Spruce Street Tavern, The Simple Man Saloon, and Polish American Club. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the late night closings.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Old and new business, water bill abatement request. The Board of Selectmen received a request for a water and sewer bill abatement in the amount of $613.61, plus accrued interest from Mr. John Torbe, who owns the property at 678 Main Street in Clinton. Mr. Torbe received an elevated water bill for that property while it was vacant and did not realize there was a water leak. The leak has been repaired, and there was no water being used on the property prior to being leased by Robert Bayless. But the Superintendent of Public Works is unable to abate this bill because it is a commercial property. Mr. Torbe is now petitioning the water commissioners for assistance in this matter. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, if I could just add a little bit more information. I did speak with the Superintendent of Public Works, and it was a complicated leak, and I guess the property owner had gotten a couple of elevated bills. They were able to finally identify the problem and get it fixed. The bylaws, it's a commercial property, so it has to go to the Board of Selectmen, but the bylaw only allow, the water policy regulation, not a bylaw, but the water regulations only allow one abatement. So there are other bills that the property owner is going to be paying a lot of money for this leak. This is just giving them a break on one bill, but there will be a lot of other bills that they are committed to paying. So I think this is probably, bill ends up being in the thousands of dollars, and this is just one bill to try to help soften the impact of that.
Thank you. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the request for a water and sewer bill abatement in the amount of $613.61 plus accrued interest from Mr. John Torbe.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just have a question. The regulation is that there can only be one abatement.
Right.
Well-
And that the superintendent's office could have discretion for residential. For
Okay.
that one,
Yeah.
anything above one would come to the selectmen. Commercial, there's none, everything would have to come to the selectmen.
Okay, so there's none except unless we approve it.
Right.
Okay, that was my only question.
Any other discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Town meeting home rule petitions. Annual town meeting approved a home rule petition to create an alternate for the Conservation Commission and home rule petitions to convert 2 beer and wine package stores to all alcohol. The Board of Selectmen need to vote to request the Massachusetts Legislature to file these petitions on behalf of the town of Clinton and send notice to our state representatives and state senators. What's the pleasure of the board in regards to handling each one of these individually or as a group?
Is there a legality to this, Michael? Do we have to do them, can we do them all at once, or?
No, I think if you do it okay, it's just kind of giving us the direction to actually
Sure.
petition the legislature so we can do it together.
Then I'll move that we request the Massachusetts legislature to file these petitions on behalf of the town of Clinton and send notice to our state representatives and state senators.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second. Oh, sorry.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I hate to be going on and on about liquor licenses. I like liquor as much as anyone else. And if I was really wanting to be stubborn about it, I would have asked that we take up each one of these separately. But as I think it's going to pass anyway, I just want to have my say and make a suggestion. I think to have a beer and wine sale license, and then the requirement is to get the signature of 10 registered voters to get yourself a full liquor license, is ridiculous and absurd. Town meeting, I mean, it's mostly fellow citizens, and they're kind people, much kinder than I, and they don't want to tell anyone no, really. I think it's ridiculous that to get a beer and wine license approved, all it requires is 10 signatures. Why would we ever give another beer and wine package store license? Knowing that no matter how much that person is out there saying, oh, I just want to have beer and wine, blah, 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 that probably in a few weeks they're going to be out looking for 10 people to sign a petition. So I'm going to recommend, and I don't expect any action from the board tonight, that the Government Affairs Committee take a look at altering the process that this could be done, and try to make it a little bit more arduous than getting 10 signatures. I think it's just nonsense. But I am going to vote for this, and that's what I have to say.
Under discussion, I just want to add that it's a lot more than 10 signatures. It would be, that's after the process of getting the beer and wine license. It's 10 signatures to get it on the warrant for the annual town meeting. It's getting a majority of those present at annual town meeting, and there being a quorum present when the article is considered for them to pursue this. And then this is not mandatory by this board. We do not have to send this request down to Boston. This board still has a say. We could decline to send these requests.
Oh, yes, I know that.
So
Yeah, I know.
the hurdle to do this is a little more significant. And while I agree that we should probably refer this to the Government Affairs Committee, I do want to say that I don't support the idea that we have arbitrary limits on the number of licenses. The limits on licenses should be based on the service to the general public who chooses to purchase alcohol, and the character and past practices and performance of the applicants. I don't believe we should be arbitrarily limiting these licenses and making, the one we just transferred, that person paid $30,000 for that license. And I think we should put an end to that process by eliminating the need to purchase existing licenses. But that's just my opinion. Is there any other discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Police chief service exam request. The police chief has suggested that the town of Clinton request to be part of the next civil service exam for police chief in order to have candidates ready for appointment when he retires. The police chief has not set a date for retirement, but the exam will be administered in the spring of 2020, and scores are good for 2 years after that period. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I move that the town of Clinton request to be part of the next civil service exam for police chief.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Goals and objectives discussion. The Board of Selectmen have been discussing the following goals and objectives for FY 2019. I would suggest that we table this discussion and give the newest members an opportunity to review some of the things that we've done and some of the things we've considered, and see if we want to revise this at our next meeting.
Thank you.
If that's all right with everyone, I'm
Yes.
just going to move on.
Please be prepared to discuss it at the next meeting.
Subcommittee reports.
Mr. Chair, I'm assuming we're going to take a look at membership and plug in
Yes.
some holes?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, at the next meeting, we'll have
Okay.
a list of subcommittees in.
Because I'm eager to get a cable meeting going, and my marketing and communications subcommittee is scheduled to meet Tuesday. I haven't told them yet, so hopefully they're around.
Bear with me.
Right. See you Tuesday. But we'll have that posted if we're in fact meeting.
And, Mr. Chairman, the downtown,
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
were
right.
you gonna talk
No, I
about
forgot
it?
about that one. No,
Oh.
that's yours.
yeah, the downtown committee is going to be meeting Thursday at 4 o'clock to discuss plans now that the warrant article has passed and future plans for the business district.
Mr. Chair, if I could
Sure.
back up to old and new business, I forgot to
Sure.
bring up something, and I always do. After town meeting and since, I've been contacted by the people at Clinton Youth Football, just regarding equity. We all remember from town meeting the citizen petitions for bleachers that we funded through the budget, but also there was one that was, I don't know if it was tabled or being, or defeated for a storage facility. They're paying monthly to, apparently they had some storage at St. John's Gym, and now they're paying for storage, I believe, at Fuller Field. They've asked Fuller Field for some clarification on what other leagues are paying for storage, and I don't know, I know we're overdue for a meeting with the Fuller Field Commission. I'd love it if we could maybe try and get them in here soon to get some answers on, I just want to make sure everyone's, it seems like there's some, as is often the case with the Fuller Field Commission, some confusion and miscommunication, and I'd love to, if we could play a part in clearing that up, I would like to see it happen.
I'm not sure that we can arrange that for the next meeting, but
Sure.
Very soon.
That'd be great.
Try to arrange that.
Thank you.
But I do want to say that it is clear that Fuller Field Commission is, it is an appointed board. It's appointed through the authority of the Board of Selectmen, but they have sole jurisdiction over the use of the facility. We have sole jurisdiction over the membership of the board, but the board has sole jurisdiction over the use of the facility.
Well, so,
Within town regulations and state laws.
well, and I don't want to overstep this board's, I mean, would it be better served if I just contacted the chairman of that committee and commission and suggested they get back to the football people? It seems like they've reached a bit of an impasse over there.
Well, it certainly can't hurt,
Okay.
but we should request a meeting with Fuller Field Commission for this and not other reasons, but also we need to review our appointment process for a lot of, people get appointed to boards and they never get reappointed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not doing we're doing a disservice to them and us by not reviewing, fulfilling our responsibilities to reappoint people to boards that they're serving on, or to fill those positions. So I think that's a broader conversation
Sure.
we should be having too.
I'll reach out to the chair and see if I can help out behind the scenes, and then, yeah, if they're open to coming in and talking about bigger picture things, I'd love to. I know they've some renovations planned there and other things. It'd be great to just get caught up.
Okay, the one thing we need to do is we usually go on a summer schedule, but we do have meetings that we have to schedule. The first one would be to handle year-end transfers. I think the week of the 24th through or later in the week of that week, if everyone's available.
I am.
Would we be ready by the 26th, Mike?
That would be the hope. I can double check tomorrow morning, but we can do something tentatively if the members are available on Wednesday, the 26th.
Why don't we schedule a meeting for the 26th for the purpose of, it would be a brief meeting just to handle year-end transfers. And if we're not ready at that point, what were the other dates, Mike, that would have worked?
I think just probably looking for the week after. I know it's difficult with the holiday week, but
Yeah.
just,
The week after, I'm not available, and the week after that, you're not.
Right.
So I guess it behooves us to be ready on the 26th.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
And I think we should be able to,
You
at
could-
that point, we should.
If it's not ready on the 26th, which I hope they would be,
Yeah.
there's the 29th and the 30th also.
Not for me.
You're not there?
On a Saturday or
Well, the
Sunday?
vice chair.
I'm actually.
Oh, no.
No, yeah, you
The
can run-
Monday.
yes,
The
absolutely.
Monday, the
I-
Monday.
Oh, Monday. Monday I can do. I can't do the weekend.
I'm not available that week, so,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
if
So
it
it's gotta
comes to
be-
that, I'd be perfectly comfortable with missing
The
the
vice
meeting
chairman
and
doing it?
trusting
Yeah,
this
okay.
board to work without me.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so
We'll shoot
we're
for next
tentatively
week.
scheduled for the 26th, and we'll take it from there.
Good.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.